Greetings, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Art of Storytelling Podcast, where we are looking to change our narrative and shape our narrative one interview at a time. We got a special guest by special request in the building. We're still in our Black Narrative series, so I brought one of our statesmen in the building to share his perspective on civil unrest and its effect on the shaping of the Black narrative in America. One of my brothers, one of my comrades in the building. Brooklyn in the house, man. Darren, welcome to the show, man. How you feeling?
My man. Coming in and out a little bit, but I appreciate the intro. I've been friends with you, known you for a long time, and I know you speak nothing but the truth and want to get the untold stories of loads of individuals out there.
That's real. That's real. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. It was a little choppy at first, but I'm okay right now.
So you from Brooklyn, correct?
I'm sorry, I couldn't even hear that last question. All I heard was Brooklyn.
I said you're from Brooklyn, correct?
Yeah, I am.
All right, so tell us
East New York.
Tell us what it was like growing up in East New York.
It's a loving relationship. You know, I love home. I just, after seeing what everybody else has an opportunity to have to search the so-called American dream, it felt like certain places were set up for success and certain places were set up for failure. I'm an immigrant myself. Originally, I was born in a country called Belize. My pop joined the army. I got to Brooklyn when I say like 92. Went to elementary school, junior high school, until I joined the military. You know, Brooklyn is home, you know. As far as growing up there, I mean, everything has its good and its bad, but you can't but see things that against you. It's kind of like other people have hands to get to where they want to go.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
I'm not sure if that. Yeah, I can. As far as like schooling and upbringing and stuff like that, but I'm not quite sure if.
All right, what about now? Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay. So, what do you think, from your perspective, is some of the roots? Because you just touched on something that was key: the haves and the have-nots, so to speak. So, civil unrest in America. What's kind of your perspective on the root cause or some of the root causes?
My perspective on the root cause of civil unrest. I don't believe we all have a level playing field. I don't believe that people do on paper. In reality, in actuality, they don't. Uh, Force people to have the same footing as everyone else. I'm not saying it's impossible to succeed. Uh, I want, and because everyone and to want what other people don't have, what they don't have, feels that they're justly being targeted or due to their circumstances, they're not to begin this journey that we have here. And it causes resentment. It causes resentment to the people that do have, and however they receive their means, it makes other individuals, I guess, covet is a strong word, but desire what they don't have. Also, like the I guess the portrayal of the American dream and what success looks like is only received by few, and so many people are striving for something that is materialistic or what is portrayed as the American dream, as having your own property, owning your own place, and really because of that they feel as they succeed. And I don't believe that that's true, but we are all here striving for something, and maybe that ideal of the white picket fence and the house and land and the dog and a wife and kid may real to everyone. But
Right.
I think it boils down to that you end up playing to begin with. A person that's born in the suburbs with a middle class to upper middle class home, has more resources, has more ability to get where they need to go to quote success in society, as opposed to somebody that's born into a single mother household in an area that has been, it's not the best of areas. It's not the best of environments to be able to succeed. And for the individuals that have the willpower to make it out, it's a blessing to them. But there's so many untold stories of people that can't make it out due to the circumstances of the environment.
I grew up in, I would say, the Rodney King era. So if you were to look from the Rodney King, Sean Bell, and forward, as recent as George Floyd, Tamir Rice, this relationship between the black narrative and, I would say, the entertainment industry. Do you think that the portrayal in the entertainment industry, the music, the movies, do they play a factor on the outside and the inside representation of black people?
I believe it does play a factor. I believe it does play a factor in the same aspect that I just spoke of. When you have somewhat positive influences or goals to attain in a manner that is undefined, right? So we have examples in our culture or in our hood of successful individuals, right? We have individuals that are athletes. We have individuals that are entertainers. We have these role models that are perpetually blasted in our face. And those role models are spitting or talking about points that about sexuality, about violence, or about doing crimes. And that's for the most part, along with whatever amount of talent they have, whatever genre they decide to go into, they're somewhat giving advice to our newest generation of people. How many times do you see look on TikTok and you see 8-year-old girls twerking to Cardi B or Megan Thee Stallion, and these little women are over sexualizing themselves, and their mothers think it's all right because they grew up and listening to Little Kim and Foxy Brown talk about somewhat of the same things. And then you have our young men that are out here, you know, doing all these crimes and things because they see guys on the corner getting that fast money and hustling and doing whatever they do in order to possibly survive because they don't have the education or the patience to deal with the system that was not designed to allow us to succeed. It was designed for other individuals to succeed, and we are we're afterthought of allowing us to succeed in that same somewhat system. And so they see the people that are somewhat successful in their neighborhoods and in their environments, and they normally don't quite right. They don't individual or individual that should be emulated. They represent individuals that should not be emulated. They shouldn't be. They should be very rarely emulated. But yet, you see the flashy cars, the nice jewelry, the dude that gets the young ladies, and they want that. They again, people want that quote unquote success, and so they go that route, and they end up in worse situations because that money is not, or that form of success is not sustainable. It's very rare that you find an old drug dealer. It's very rare that you find an old shit, even an old athlete. So or old entertainer. All those professions, all those I guess possibilities that people would have the ability to go out, which take to be a drug dealer. It just takes, I guess, a mindset and ruthlessness, I suppose. But as far as athlete entertainers, like that's all short-lived money. And if you see so many times of people that were entertainers and were in the limelight, that after that limelight goes, they have no other skills. They have no other ways of maintaining them. You know, Places that you end up seeing them not capable of living or even a sustainable lifestyle. Um, and it's sad that those are the individuals that are our become instead of the doctors, businessmen. Have noticed, for our country to run. Um, the individuals that were during the pandemic that continue life as they were, or even better, because of their need, because of the need for the doing what they do. There's a lot of trades, and nobody is. It seems like the narrative that a lot of parents are pushing to the kids is like, you need to be a doctor, a lawyer, or some type of businessman, and instead of learn the skill, that trade will never go back on if you start, and you have that to give your child a back, have something to fall back on, and based off not drawing things. Well, I won't say drawing things. System that was never designed for them. I don't know. With the as our culture and aspect, all these things that are happening in the country, in our country, is disheartening. It's disheartening because you have individuals that are just existing, and they're perceived as threats just because of who they are. So, I mean, it's certain situations. Like I have a daughter, and I have served in the military for 22 years, and I have a lot of friends who are from all over the country, white, black, Hispanic, Pacific Islanders, Asian, whatever, you name it, or that race or culture. And I had candid conversations with them, and they one of the, I guess one of the, we had a conversation about why I couldn't understand or even entertain the concept that certain people have in American communities as opposed to influences in other people's communities. And I I, I was able to get through to him by explaining to him that the police don't seem to be here to help people in my neighborhood. I've been assaulted by police officers. I've been harassed by police officers. And they couldn't believe that. They couldn't believe that, a police officer would do anything like that. And I thought about it, and there's a difference in the way that rural communities and small town America is policed and the way that urban areas like Brooklyn or Los Angeles or Chicago is policed. And those policemen in those rural areas are part of the community. They grew up with those families. They grew up with that environment, that community. And they're more likely to see you as a person because they saw you grow up. They know your family. They may have gone to school with your brother or your pop. Or larger communities like that, it's the same. These individuals don't necessarily see you as a part of the community. They just see you as a statistic. They're more likely to put you in jail for something minor that of no consequence as opposed to someone in a rural situation because they see you as a person. I know your grandmother. I know that you go to church over here on Sundays because I go to church with you. They're not able to see past that fact. Now, that doesn't excuse, I guess, some of the actions that we do to cause ourselves to be in certain situations. But a lot of those situations don't necessarily need to go to the extent that they do go to. As far as, I guess, the climate. So when the George Floyd murder happened, I was in Korea. I was in Korea during the time, and I happen to be an individual that I believe is, or I somewhat believe that I am moderately successful as far as being able to be an adult, you know, live on my own, have my own family, have my own place, not necessarily dependent on anyone. And my daughter called me while I was in Korea, and she's in, and she she was afraid. She was afraid because of the George Floyd situation. She was afraid because of the actions of people that are just bigoted, and she was afraid that her just existing potentially can cause her to be harassed and or killed because she saw those individuals that are supposed to protect her or are there to protect her killing a man for no reason. And the primary reason for that was his skin color. While she's supposed to grow up in this world and try to achieve greatness, but everything that we see on media is portraying the opposite. Now, she'll have a lot more media savvy than I am, or electronic savvy than I am, and probably will ever be. So, if I'm able to see snippets of these issues, I know she sees it. I mean, if you have any type of interest in anything, you can find tons of examples of it on the internet. And so, if that's something that you want to look at, it's there. It's there to blatantly show you we say one thing, but we mean another. And for me to have a conversation to my daughter about how to interact with police, how to interact with certain people is disheartening. And it shows the state of where we are as a society. It shows that I guess it's, and as much as we say that we're in a good as a country, these actions show otherwise. Now, I'm not saying that it's the same as it was in the 60s, where dog gets sick on or hoses, fire hoses were sprayed on in children's face, because that type of blatant racism is not tolerated. I won't say that it can't happen or won't happen, but it's not as tolerated or accepted as it was before, but it still happens. And that's so long ago, they say. Like, I have these other conversations with people that I served with, and they're like, these things, slavery, blase, was so long ago. But the civil rights movement happened 100 years after the abolishment of slavery. And yet, we had to fight for that. People had to fight for just being. I mean, we still have people that alive that lived in America during Jim Crow. That their formative years in life was during Jim Crow. White, black, Hispanic, half the country is right. So to put that in perspective, people's family members, some of their great uncles and stuff like that were alive and trying to subvert that system. To think that some of these people that power were also around during that system and they portray, I guess, their biases or perspectives based off of a time when it was all right to call people, I don't know if I can say these words, but the N-word. Openly did it. All right. They weren't allowed, they were able to separate and separate based off, and they're still around. So to think that blatant form of racism is not being taught to anyone in America anymore is a lie. We could hope that people aren't teaching their kids that stuff, and we could hope that their kids are, I guess, intelligent enough to realize that that's not, I guess, the way to go. But if your parents are teaching you one thing and your environment is teaching you one thing, and then your morality is teaching you another, what's going to win out? We're living that experiment right now, So I guess I went on a little rant or a little, I guess, tangent, but I hope that answered the question.
It actually answered all of my questions, in regards to this topic. I mean, the insight was phenomenal, and your perspective, and that you spent time seeking to educate, and then even despite the advancements, there are still instances where which lack of common knowledge and lack of common experience lead to a break or something being lost in translation in regards to what you see and how you actualize your experience. So I think your commentary was insightful and impactful. You know what I mean? So I definitely would want to have you back on for another aspect. There's some more layers to this experience and the shaping of it, the documentation of it. This is why we have the podcast series here to dispel a lot of the things that's associated with Black life in America, in particular, and Black life all over the world. So, if you could just pick up a device, love, just pick up a device and see somebody's interpretation of your life. You see what I'm saying? That you had no say in. A room full of writers came together and said, "We're going to portray you like this." So if I never had no physical contact with you, all I'm going to do is go off of what I've seen and what I've heard. What I heard from people I love and what I've seen from people I don't trust. You understand what I'm saying? So these narratives are all over. So we're looking to dispel them. Do you have any other thing you wanted to say before we go? Final word.
I mean, I wanted to leave it on this as far as there's potential in everyone. There's potential to be good, bad, and different in everyone, every person, every individual in our society. But we shouldn't be quick to just assume that someone is one way or another just based off of their skin, which is unfortunate. The reality that we live is that everyone, to include myself, judges people by appearance and judges people off of our first impression, but it shouldn't be that way, and it also shouldn't be based off of their race. And it's a two-way street. It's a two-way street. I came up in somewhat of a, I guess, a sports type background, so I always thought about things as you respect to get respect. And unfortunately, people in this, I guess, society and this community have gotten to that point where they left that entitlement and try to understand the other individual. And I think that that's important. If I treat you like a person, you should be able to treat me like a person. If you disrespect me, then I don't have to turn the other cheek. And everyone's trying to tell how to do certain things and tell people how to do certain things because that's the way that they believe. But if I treated you rightly and you treat me disrespectfully, then I don't have to get sense. That's kind of where I wanted to leave it at.
Appreciate your time, my brother. Definitely.
Hey, anytime. All right.
All right. We out, y'all. Next time.
Control this thing. All right.